Hi, welcome. I'm Michelle.
I'm Jed, and our blog is intentionaltravelers.com.
Today we will be answering 4 questions from our readers, including how we make money travel blogging, planning a multi-stop train journey, planning an itinerary for an unfamiliar country, and nervousness about getting back to travel after the pandemic.
Wow, let's jump in. So the first question is one we get all the time from different people. How do you make money as a travel blogger?
We've had the blog since 2014, and the first thing to know is it didn't always make money. Our work has really evolved over the years from being mostly freelance web work, and we do continue some contract work, though it's now mostly like conference style events. We built an online partnership during the pandemic called Kika's Cooking Club, which we've since handed off to a new partner. And so that means now I'm finally able to focus on the travel blog as my primary work project. So the blog makes money by, one, showing ads on the free content. We also recommend products and services with affiliate links, which means if someone clicks on an affiliate link that we publish and then makes a purchase, then that company might pay us a small referral commission.
And there's like no additional cost to the reader, right? Using the links on our site or in our emails when you book something is like an easy way to support us and our work. So if you're going on a trip or something, utilize one of our links because it just helps us out.
Occasionally, a company will pay us a sponsorship fee to share something, but this is pretty rare, and I'm very picky about who we promote. So in addition to all the free information that I do publish on the website and give away in emails, I've also been working more on creating paid resources this year. So you may have seen that. That includes a digital trip planning workbook, new online courses with video tutorials that help travelers better utilize their phones and other tech to improve their trips. It takes all these different income streams to make the blog sustainable, especially now that it's my primary income, and it's also supporting a virtual assistant. So you may not know that. She has been working with me part-time for 3 years. She now has a baby at home, so this job gives her flexibility and helps provide for her family too. The internet is constantly changing with things like artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and social media algorithms. So I hope that I can continue to be a travel blogger. I love it, but it's definitely not a certainty in the future. A new way that hopefully soon people will be able to support intentional travelers is by joining a membership that I'm developing.
You and I have been members of an online workout video subscription, which supports a guy and his family who creates these exercise videos that we can do from home or when we're traveling.
Right, it's like that. So I'm aiming to create a more exclusive content, courses, and share our updates that would only be available to members.
Great. Well, so the next question, Dave said, I want to see Sicily by rail, taking the local trains to towns and cities along the way and stay maybe 1 to 2 days at each stop. How do I begin to plan this? And he also notes that, yes, I am retired. Congrats, Dave.
Yeah. Great question. I don't know specifics about Sicily because we haven't been, but here's how I would go about finding the answer. So one, there's a website called Seat 61 that is known for having very thorough information about train travel pretty much all around the world. Two, I would Google it and or YouTube it. So I bet you will find blogs or vlogs by people who have done something similar and are sharing their guidance or tips. Travel bloggers like myself, that's what we do. Another word of advice that I say to just about anyone who sends me their itinerary ideas is less is more and slower is better. So Dave mentioned staying 1 or 2 days at each stop. And as much as I love trains, I would gently remind Dave that transit days are always tiring and stressful. So unless you're 18 years old, which we know that you are not, that pace does become unsustainable very quickly
And I just want to add that when doing like Google searches or YouTube searches, that keywords matter. Adding very specific keywords will help the search get better and better. So
So
that's
what's like a keyword you would start with?
if you know two towns that you want to go to within Sicily, for example, then I would search for that and be like, how to get there by rail. Or I would ask like, what's the cost to use the rail? Or how do I get a ticket? Peggy asked, what's the best way to spend 6 days in Sri Lanka?
Right.
Ooh.
We have not been to Sri Lanka, but here's how I'd go about finding the answer. Again, use your favorite search tool. It could be Google or YouTube or even Pinterest. And make sure that you find a real live person who has done the trip and who has that advice to share from their own experience. You don't want like an artificially intelligence generated thing. So, as many of you know, I also do a lot of my trip research in Google Maps. So, I use it for getting a general lay of the land, finding the distances between places and the transportation options. Then I use it to find highly rated places to visit, and throughout all my research, I pin and I categorize points on my own Google Maps so that when we arrive, I have a visual of what's close by that we might want to do.
And those are some of the things that you teach, right? Like in the tricks and tips in like your course about Google Maps,
right? It's called Google Maps Travel Hacks. So I kind of teach that process there. So that's how I'd initially start planning a trip if we're traveling independently. That said, to be honest, there are several countries that I feel are really intimidating. Maybe we don't speak the language, or the culture is super foreign, or just, the crowds are overwhelming, and I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable navigating around on our own. In those cases, I would either go with a group tour or find a local, find a connection friend of a friend who can kind of meet us there and show us around. So that's how we initially felt about Vietnam and even Jamaica, like specific parts of Jamaica outside the resort bubble. We only went there because we were Peace Corps volunteers and we had 3 months of training about the culture, and we went and visited our friends around the islands.
This is a good example. Like in Vietnam, we knew some good friends living in Hanoi. So they oriented us and showed us how to cross the street. There's a really great YouTube video about that, amidst a swarm of motorbikes, and what foods to try, some cultural important things to know. We stayed with them twice before we ventured to other parts of Vietnam on our own. And now we try to be that same friend on the ground for other visitors.
Right. So that's why we're hosting like a Learn and Explore trip in March 2024. So
come join us in Vietnam.
Yeah. All right.
One quick thing I wanted to ask you, when you do a Google search, you try to find someone who's an actual live person who's been to someplace. How can you tell what's the difference? What's your tips for that?
Yeah, AI really only speaks from a very generic perspective. And so even when you're reading the blog post, if the person is saying, this is what I did, that's your first clue.
And like photos too, right? Like if there's actually photos of like them being there, that's so much more valuable. Our next question, Catherine asks, we haven't traveled since the beginning of the pandemic. My husband is especially nervous. Help.
Everyone has their own comfort level when it comes to their health and traveling post-pandemic, and that's okay. If you are immunocompromised, for example, your considerations are different than someone who's not worried about getting sick. So definitely consult with a doctor if you have medical concerns. We are not doctors. But I will say, I do hope you travel. A lot has changed since the start of the pandemic. So some of those big, legitimate fears that people had before don't need to be holding us back anymore. For one, we have more tools to minimize the effects of COVID on our bodies. Also, starting in 2022, we saw those travel restriction changes slowing down and mostly disappearing. So you don't have to worry anymore about suddenly having to cancel a trip last minute because a country has completely closed its borders. We also don't have supply chain issues like before, so no matter where you visit, you'll be able to buy hand sanitizer, masks, COVID tests, and those kind of things.
And just on a personal note, we also have our own concerns and also mitigate our own risks in our own way. We still wear masks on planes, use hand sanitizer when possible. And we also try to check on, like, in the country that we're going to, like, what are some of the things we should know about.
I agree with that. It helps ease my anxiety to know what to expect, and that's why I love travel researching. On the blog, we keep travel restriction posts updated for different countries that we have connection to, and we update them with reports from locals and recent travelers about the current situation. But another way to find that information, if not on our blog, is you can browse forums for your destination, like TripAdvisor or Facebook groups, and you'll see what recent travelers are saying about their experience and see if that's something that you would be comfortable with. I would also recommend starting small. So maybe don't do a multi-country trip right away, but visit one destination. Rent a vacation home for the entire time where you'll have control over your own space. You can go for walks or just sit outside. In other words, you can find ways to minimize your exposure to crowds and other variables so that you can feel more comfortable traveling.
I love that piece of advice because I feel like sometimes we jump into something way too big, too fast. And I think you're right that we should ease into something and build our level of comfort, see what it's like, and then kind of grow on that. Anyways, we hope this video has been helpful to you. Let us know if you'd like to see more videos like this by filling out our survey. The link is below. Or send in your own Ask Us Anything questions, also linked below. We'd love to hear from you and we'd love to have more conversations. So until next time.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.